Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and we're going to go through some more viewer comments and questions. This one on the theme of what are going to be the constraints that Brexit provides for the UK government, maybe a little the EU as well, and what fiddles can Boris Johnson possibly come up with in terms of trying to cover up the damage of Brexit. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, straight to the first one. It says, Phil, I am quite prepared to believe your predictions of general hardship. I mean, they weren't my predictions, I will just point out. These are the government's predictions, this Brexiteer government's predictions, as reported in Brexiteer newspapers like The Sun. For ordinary people in the UK after December the 31st, but I suspect that the Brexit leaders have some things up their sleeve to make it seem like a success. Example, sweetheart deals with China, India, America, Malaysia, and so on, companies in those countries, to open factories in UK locations, plus a wonderful trade deal with the USA and Australia, etc. What's my guess on this? Well, a few things to talk about there. First of all, in terms of the deals, yes, I absolutely accept the notion that any deal that we get, no matter how bad it is for us, will be trumpeted as a success. But the reality is, and I'm going to have to be talking a little bit more about this later this week as well, at the moment we're not really on for them. So the US trade deal is definitely off the table for now. For now, they're still talking about next year. Who knows? It will depend very much on the presidential elections, I suspect. EU trade deal, well, there's still a lot of people think we will get one. It'll be a very bare bones one. Certainly there's a compelling argument that it is in Boris Johnson's interest to get something, even if it's really just a bit of a membrane across no deal. But in terms of other ones, so Liz Truss, who is the Cabinet Secretary in charge of getting these international trade deals outside of the EU, is still talking up the prospects of getting one with Australia and Japan by the end of the year. I mean, being honest, we've already gone past the point where Japan said, there ain't time now. Now, that doesn't mean to say we're not going to get one. We're just talking about we're not going to get one implemented by the end of this year. We're obviously not going to stop all talks if we don't get them for the end of this year. But you're going to get to the point where Brexit will have started and I'll be, 1st of January asking, so where's all these trade deals then? And I may even go through all the ones we don't have, that we did have the day before. So there is an element of that. We are not actually getting them. No matter how bad they are, we're not at the moment currently getting them. But here's the thing about this, I suspect the Brexit leaders will have some things up their sleeve to make it seem like a success. See, I can understand how you'd think that. I would have thought that at one time as well, even in my cynicism. But the way 2020 especially has panned out is you've got to look at it this way. Boris Johnson's government has made a proper arse of everything. What is very, very evident is that Boris Johnson is not up to the task. Dominic Cummings is not up to the task and does not care about the task. And his other ministers, the senior members of the government, are put in place because they will toe his Brexit line. That's it. That is the only criterion for getting into cabinet at the moment. That you will argue to your dying day how great not only Brexit is, but Boris Johnson's Brexit. Even if you argued otherwise a few years ago. Now it's amazing. And when that is your only equality, now in theory you could have some clever people who are willing to do that. That's not what's in the cabinet. So you've got a lot of people who are very, very incompetent and they've cocked everything up. Everything up. Matt Hancock in the Department of Health has made a complete balls up of everything to do with COVID. Gavin Williamson in the Department of Education has made a complete balls up of everything to do with education. Dominic Raab as Foreign Secretary has made a complete balls up of everything to do with foreign diplomacy. Priti Patel as Home Secretary has ballsed up everything to do with policing. I could go on. It's rather depressing. And this then gets you to think, so, okay, imagine that, these ministers understand the damage that Brexit's going to cause and they've got a cunning plan. Does this really sound like these ministers are capable of coming up with a cunning plan? And if someone came up with it for them, are they really capable of putting it into operation. Because I cannot emphasise strongly enough just how much some of the cock-ups these ministers have made this year were really simple to avoid. Some of the U-turns they've had to make should have been obvious from the start. That they were not makes me think, and yeah, and it's very seductive, this idea of what are they up to? What are they going to do to try and hide Brexit and hide the impact of it? And I'm not dismissing the fact that they won't have something, you know, but I also don't assume that they will. If it were a more intelligent, competent cabinet, I would. I'd think to myself, well, they will understand the damage that's been caused. I mean, they've got a bloody report that tells them, for Christ's sake, yes, they'll have a plan. And I believe they will have a plan, but will it be an effective plan? Probably not. On the balance of probability, looking at how this government has dealt with real problems, because at the moment, Brexit isn't a real problem, it's a made-up problem. But we have had real problems in 2020, and they've made a mess of every single one. In 2021, Brexit goes from made-up problem to real problem. I honestly don't think that they've got a cunning plan to cover it all up. Yeah, sure, people will just blindly support them for a time as well, but they've been losing support in the country. They will continue to lose it. I am fairly confident about that. Anyway, next one. It says, why should the EU force a trade deal right now? In 6 or 12 months, they are in a far better position because the British side would sign everything the EU is offering. I think the EU right now is not very much interested in a trade deal. The whole thing is not a question of understanding. It's about a negotiation strategy. I don't think that is their negotiation strategy. And don't get me wrong, I would agree with you myself. You know, if I was, if I was on the EU side and talking to the negotiators, I'd be going, well, don't knock yourselves out for a deal. And if he comes to you with something that's not really all that great, just turn it down. Because like you say, the UK will be, well, Boris Johnson will be utterly exposed if there isn't a deal. Because bear this in mind, we're just talking about potentially covering it up. Now, if we end up with a load of, look what's already happened. There's already a load of Brexiteers ducking for cover at the moment. Now they're trying to blame the withdrawal agreement. Oh, it's the withdrawal agreement. That's why Brexit's not going to turn out great. Nigel Farage has said it, Ian Duncan Smith has said it. A few other Brexiteers of various note have said it as well. So if we get a deal, even if it's a bare bones deal, they'll just use that as well. Oh, it would have been great. The reason why we're having this trouble now is because of the deal. We wouldn't have had all the troubles will point to us, and we wouldn't have actually had that trouble if we were trading on World Trade Organization terms. We wouldn't have had that trouble if we didn't have this deal. It's the deal that's the problem. So in many ways, you more easily expose that lie if you don't have a deal. So yeah, from the EU's point of view, I would absolutely think the EU entered into talks for a comprehensive trade deal. There now cannot be a comprehensive trade deal. If I was the EU, I would just be saying, well, no. We want a comprehensive trade deal. We can't get one this year, so we're happy to carry on talking. Michel Barnier will have a fit, actually, if he hears that. But, we're quite happy to keep on talking until we have agreed a comprehensive trade deal. But we're not going to agree any interim deal, really, because that's not going to suit us. I'd be all for that. But that's not what they seem to be doing. So, and of course, I am not an international negotiator. I'm quite sure there are things that I'm not placing enough importance upon. So I really don't think they are. That is clearly not their negotiating position. I can absolutely see the EU agreeing to even a bare bones deal. All they care about is the single market preserved. Are they maintaining the integrity of the single market? If they are, then they will agree to something, even if it's better than nothing. Seems to be what they're saying, at any rate. That seems to be what they're saying. Whether we do or not, I don't know. There's still a lot of belief that we will. We'll just have to see. I don't see it myself, but you can't rule it out. Next one, it says, is the Northern Ireland, rest of UK arrangement, yeah, it's complicated, isn't it, carved in stone at this point in time? Does it depend on whether there is a deal between the UK and the EU? Which parts of the results so far can Johnson decide to alter? This last question was more generally Northern Ireland and Ireland. So it is sort of set in stone, yes, because there were two parts of the withdrawal agreement. There was the political declaration and there was the legally binding portion. The legally binding portion contains the Northern Ireland Protocol. That is now a matter of law. British law, international law, EU law. So those arrangements are set in stone. We have obligations. The EU have obligations. And there it is too. You know, if we don't comply with our obligations, we will be taken to an international court. And no prizes for guessing which one, because that's mentioned in the withdrawal agreement as well. Now, can Boris Johnson alter any of it? No. Or at least not without the approval of the EU, because it's a treaty in itself. Remember, the withdrawal agreement was not... A lot of the focus is about the transition period, but it's not that. It's a... You know, it's a treaty in itself. And the reason is because we use the term no-deal Brexit. When we talk about a no-deal Brexit, we don't literally mean no deal at all. What we mean is that we don't have a deal covering trading arrangements and various other aspects of cooperation. The withdrawal agreement is a sort of... Well, it's an agreement. It's not a full trade deal, of course, but it is an agreement. And it continues until such time as both sides decide to renegotiate it. Which I don't think the EU are going to be in too much of a hurry to do. I know there are certain parts of the right-wing press sort of advocating for renegotiating it, but the EU will just go, no. And there are some that are advocating Boris Johnson just to ignore it, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. As mad as Boris Johnson seems to be, he does very genuinely seem to be fully seized of the notion that he's not going to win by doing that. That will create an extremely serious situation. After all, Boris Johnson doesn't like being taken to court. Now, he's already made moves to try and abolish and clip the wings of courts in this country. He can't do that with international courts. So he's not up for a fight that he will lose in an international court. Apart from anything else, I'll tell you something that will be spectacularly embarrassing for Boris Johnson, is if he is taken to the European Court of Justice and loses after Brexit, when he said we'll no longer be subject to the European Court of Justice. Next one says, is there any legal difference in the ability to negotiate a deal right now compared to the situation after having dropped out with no deal in January? I mean, obviously, after the end of this year, the EU aren't under any obligations to carry on negotiating. And, you know, that... So they can just call it quits if they want, or they can agree to carry on talks. But then with those talks, you know, they can just agree to, you know, if they go through a round of talks and they go, look, you're really still not taking it seriously, they can just go, tell you what, go away and think about it. We won't schedule any more talks. You come back to us when you think you've realised a few things. So they could do that. So yeah, there's no legal obligation from the point of the EU or the UK or anyone else, because the agreement was to negotiate through the transition period, as far as I can tell, at any rate, from the withdrawal agreement. And after that, yeah, there's no obligation anyway to agree anything. There never is. So you know, you only ever arrive at a deal, an agreement, when both sides agree anyway. In fact, you know, I was reminded reading an article from an experienced Australian trade negotiator who said, until everything is agreed, nothing is agreed. And it's one I've heard, you know, for many years, and have used a few times myself, because that is true. You know, for all the government may argue about, oh, we've agreed like 99% of this thing, it's like you don't get the agreement until you've agreed 100% of it. And if there's one sticking point that you can't resolve, you don't get the agreement. Then a couple of obligatory Brexiteer comments. There weren't too many, I'm afraid, and I do apologise for the standard this time. Sometimes they're a far better standard. So the next one, it says, how is it going backwards, you prick? Most of us would welcome no deal. I'm not quite sure who he means by us there, but in terms of the going backwards, I can explain that one. That's quite easy. See, here's the thing. If you were to go back in the past, backwards, as it were, in time, then there was a time when we didn't have a deal with the EU. Well, we didn't have the EU. We didn't have a deal with the EEC, as it was then. And also, many other countries around the world didn't either. You know, the EEC was groundbreaking, revolutionary, forming this tightly knit trading bloc between powerful economies. in order to make themselves dependent upon each other so they wouldn't go to war with each other, because we did have a bit of a habit over the last bit of human history. And then it stopped. It was brilliant. Other countries looked at it and thought, ah, this is amazing. They're making a load of money. They're getting very powerful. We should do the same thing. So now you've got trading blocks all over the world. We're trying to join one. Be another video about that later this week. We're leaving the EU because we want our independence, and we're immediately trying to join a different bloc. Couldn't make it up. Anyway, never mind that. So how is it going backwards? Because if you to look at a time when we didn't have the deal is backwards in time. And if you look forwards in time, more and more countries have deals. We are going to be the only country in the world that doesn't have any agreements with any advanced economy in the world. And then the next one says, how about the EU recognising UK coastal waters? That's one obstacle out the way. Yeah, the EU do recognise UK coastal waters, because here's the thing, if they didn't, they wouldn't be asking about it. They would just go, we're just going to carry on fishing there then, won't we? Also, it has to be borne in mind, this particular... That was really silly. Sorry, I'm sorry. It's the best I could do. If the Brexiteers could come up with some better quality questions for later, that'd be brilliant. The other thing to bear in mind, and it's worth pointing out as well, someone pointed out to this person, is the reason why the fishing rights is such an issue is it's nothing to do with territorial water or anything like that. British fishermen sold their fishing quotas to French fishermen, Spanish fishermen, Greek fishermen, and so on. All the EU are doing is saying you need to honour these, you either need to buy them back or you need to honour these quotas. So ultimately what there is about that. And obviously they want an agreement as well. They represent a number of fishing nations. We are a fishing nation in the UK. You would think we would want a reciprocal agreement. British fishermen fish in French waters and Spanish waters and Norwegian waters. Well, that's not in the EU, but you know, part of they have access to the single market. We need an agreement with them as well. In fact, you know, Norwegian cod very popular in the UK. Quite nice if British fishermen could bring some back for us. But anyway, there we go. That's a little selection there in terms of what the actual constraints are going to be on us in reality. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.